I have a real life horror story to share, so buckle up. This story is 100% real. There are police reports and posts on Nextdoor to prove it.
Hello everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this lady that took to TikTok a real life horror story that happened to her, and she's going to be telling us everything that happened. Guys, this is real life, okay? So without wasting too much time, let's get right into this video.
I have a real life horror story to share, so buckle up. This story is 100% real. There are police reports and posts on Nextdoor to prove it. And it's not from a movie, and it's not from a book. It is my real life. So a few years ago, I moved back to my hometown. It's super small. It's super sleepy. There's like 4,000 people. And it's kind of the type of place where there's not a lot going on. And if you're like, Ellen, why would you do that? Money. A couple that I know was like renting a tiny house. It was so cheap, and they were like, hey, if you want to move in, like, you've got the place. And I was like, great, I'll save some money. So I move in, and like literally a couple days into living there, I start to feel like somebody is watching me. Like in my house, around my house, working in my little yard, things just felt very off. And spoiler alert, like, ladies, if you have this feeling, anyone, if you have this feeling, please listen to it. Okay, so 2 pieces of context that you need like super quick to understand how insane this story is and how creepy this gets. Because if you consume true crime content, unfortunately, you are in the right place. Couple pieces of context that you need to understand how scary and creepy this is. So the property was divided into sections. The couple that lived in the main house were renting to me. So they lived in the main house. They had their own yard, their own entrance and exit, like kept to themselves. My space was the tiny house in the back, and I had my own tiny postage stamp of a yard. I had my own gate, and I parked my car right outside my gate so I could just get in there and just go to work. I kept to myself. No one knew that I lived there. So not only did this place kind of creep me out, but I started smelling cigarette smoke like 4 days into living there. Like, it was evening, I was kind of winding down, getting ready for bed, and I would smell it, and it was so strong, it was like someone was in the room with me. And because I'm a rational person, I was like, it's probably the couple in the main house. Like, one of them went outside to smoke, hiding it from the other one, and it's just kind of wafting into my room. And stay with me because this is about to get completely unhinged. I should also add that sometimes my dog would like bark or growl, and I have to confess, you guys, I like shushed her a little bit because we had just moved in, and I was like, there's a lot of unfamiliar sounds. We used to live in the country. I was like, you probably just like hear people going about their lives, and you're being like a little bit dramatic about it, and we can't bark at everything. I have regrets. You're the best. So then comes the fateful night when my dog indicates that she has to go out to go to the bathroom, and I smell the cigarette smoke again, and I'm just like, 2 for 1, I'm gonna go outside with her and just gently call over the fence and just be like, hey, couple who lives in the main house, like, can you not smoke right outside here, because like it's kind of wafting over the fence and into my bedroom, and it's super strong. And I'm like, tonight's the night. We are having a conversation about it. So I let myself out the front door, no shoes, no pants, no phone, and I see a man in my yard, and he is looking in my bedroom window, and he's smoking. So before I tell you how I respond to this, if you've ever been in an emergency situation and had like a weird response, I would love to hear about it, because when people are in shock, when we're in disbelief, we just don't react the way that one might think. Sometimes it's not like super rational, Now I have the gift of hindsight to look back and think of all the things I would have, could have, should have done, but I didn't have that at the time. I was really just like a girl with no pants and no shoes and no phone and no gun. and no security system, which, like, since then I have changed. So I responded in a weird way. I, like, called out, "Hey," as if, like, he was a friend of mine who was just dropping by and forgot to text, because I thought, like, there's no way this is a stranger. Like, he must be, like, lost, like he went to the wrong house, or like a friend or a friend's partner who's like dropping off a book for me, or like dropping off some apples from their tree. Like, I truly live in Delulu land, you guys. You have no idea. But no, quickly I realized that this was a stranger, and he was in my yard and he was watching me. So he sees me, and he's clearly on drugs because his reaction is super slow. And he turns around and like takes off, but he's like not very fast. And I instinctively take off after him, as any completely irrational person would do. Like, what am I gonna do if I catch him? And I'm running through the dark alley with no shoes on, stepping on like pine cones and pine needles and stuff. And he gets away because of course he does. And then I'm standing in a dark alley, like, for what feels like 10 minutes, which is probably like 10 seconds. And that's when it dawns on me, like, finally, that this person is not lost. He's not a friend of a friend. He is a stranger who's been stalking me for months and watching me through my window, smoking. So this person who just got away has seen me get out of the shower and read a book in bed and scroll on social media. I've even woken up in the middle of the night to the smell of his cigarette smoke, which means that he's watched me sleep before. And this is all too much for my brain to comprehend. So I just stood there, you guys. And then I'm like, I have to call the police. Like, this is an actual emergency that actually just happened. Like, I have to call the police. So I go back into my little tiny home and I find my cell phone and I just sit on the bed, sweating and shaking and trying to convince myself that this was a real thing that really just happened and I did not make it up. I didn't imagine it. So I call the police and they're very nonchalant for some reason. I'm like, would you be this nonchalant if this was you or like your partner or your family? Because I hope not. And this person is a neighbor of mine. And you know that's true because, like, it's not random that 4 days after I moved in, I started smelling cigarette smoke outside of my house. I am confronted with the knowledge that, like, this person is very close to me and has been for, like, a while. And it's a tale as old as time because when I talk to the police of this, 4,000, 5,000 person tiny ass town, it very quickly pivots from like him stalking me and like his actions and like anything about him to like, do I do this or did I do that? It was like, do you have a gun? And at the time I was like, no, I have a gun now. And they were like, did you have a home security system? I didn't have one at the time. And did you lock your doors every day? And I was like, honestly, not really. I thought this was safe and I was wrong. And I felt so stupid and I felt so small and embarrassed, which I should not have had to feel. Okay, this is getting very long. Let me know if you want a part 2. But spoiler alert, I am not the only woman he watched.
We definitely need a part 2. So, but before we get right into the part 2, this is so creepy. It has to be somebody from around the house is watching her, because what happens when he finishes smoking and finishes, watching this lady for the night, he will definitely go back to this home. That's what I think, at least. But oh my goodness. Let's get right into the next part.
Okay, it's time for part 2. So I'm guessing that your number one question is, did this guy get caught? And the answer is yes, and I'll tell you how. And if you're genuinely curious about like the aftermath of this for me in my life, I guess I can make a part 3. But I think more importantly, like, where is this guy, right? He was caught. So pretty soon after this happened, I posted on Nextdoor and Facebook, which you should only do this if you are really super brave, because people are not super kind on social media. Not sure if anybody told you, but yikes. So I post on Nextdoor, I post on Facebook in like my local group, and I'm like, this is the person that you should be looking out for. Like, has anyone else seen this person? And after sifting through the comments, I found a couple people who had not only seen someone like this, but had experienced the same thing that I did. Which in a town of 4,000, like, really sticks out. So they were like, you can message me, like, I caught this guy outside my house the other day, and it was really scary, and like my husband was out of town, and he was like watching me and smoking, and the details were just so similar. So I reached out to a couple of these women, and honestly, I think there were two who had very, very similar stories. Like, the other ones, like, maybe could have been somebody else, but these ones I was like, this is uncanny. So I talked to these women, and we have this like beautiful moment of solidarity, and it's very nourishing, of course, but like, does it do anything for us legally? No, not really. We all moved on with our lives, because that's what we do, is that we have jobs and bills and shit to take care of, you know? So fast forward like a year, maybe a year and a half later, and I get a text message from the lady who lived next door to the tiny house property. And she was like, I talked to someone who caught the guy. And I was like, you're joking. Like, have them call me. So this guy calls me, and he proceeds to tell me an insane story. So he says that him and his wife were literally just like watching TV or like hanging out, you know, like getting ready for bed. And they had been feeling a little bit weird lately. They'd heard rustling around. They had assumed that maybe they had like a mouse, or like a rat or something, or whatever, like the wind. But that night, he like decided to go out and check on something because something felt really off. And it was kind of loud. And so he goes out there, and there's a man smoking, watching them. And this guy has, I think, a more reasonable reaction than some of us. And he goes like chasing after this guy, like at a much better clip than I ever did. And not only that, but he fucking catches him. And he has to hold this dude down until the police get there. Can you literally imagine physically holding down the person who has been stalking you until the police arrive? Fortunately, my hometown is like a mile and a half long. So how long can it possibly take them to get there? You know, a few minutes. So he tackles the guy. He's charged with like stalking and stuff because he was physically detained. And fast forward, and the guy is like arraigned in court. So he received like a fine. Like, he's not in jail. He's like proceeding with his life. So obviously, like, I don't have all the information. Like, I don't have access to like all of his records or anything like that. But it seems that he went on living, and I just have to constantly be looking over my shoulder and just hoping that he's not there. And I'll talk more about this if I make a part 3. But I do think that I've done a good job, like, not becoming bitter. Because I really do hope that he gets some help. Like, that is legitimately insane behavior. Methodically stalking people like that. And I think that I've done my best to, like, move on with my life, you know? But you know what's the craziest part of this story? I mean, there are a lot of crazy parts, but I think the craziest part is how common this shit is. Like, when something bad or traumatic happens to like a kind of a normal average person like me, and you just go on living your life. And especially like in the comment section of part one, I'm just like, wow, like, how are you guys doing?
This is very, very creepy, and it's so sad that people are going through these on a daily by stalkers. Guys, if you know the feeling of being stalked, then you understand how this girl feels. I won't come here and say I understand how she feels, but I do know definitely for a fact that I would not want anybody watching me sleep, watching me get out of the shower, watching me do personal things in my space. It'll freak the hell out of me. And I feel so, so happy that he was caught at the end. The fact that this guy wasn't jailed or, confined to a room or something to prevent him from further stalking people just icks the hell out of me, because when things like this happen, I like for these criminals to be held accountable, if I may. But yes, guys, let me know what y'all think about this. And yes, we've come to the end of the video. I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye.